My next guest is one of America's most outspoken conservationists. He's a best-selling author, an outspoken defender of the Second Amendment, and he's host of Spirit of the Wild on the Outdoor Channel. He's also a hunting buddy of mine, and I got to tell you, he's got some of the finest trained retriever dogs I've ever seen work the duck woods. Now, you know him best as the Motor City Madman, the fastest guitar slinger in rock and roll. Ted Nugent, thanks for joining us and welcome.
Well, happy springtime to you, Mike, and everybody watching, because I know if you're watching Mike Huckabee, you are great Americans, so God bless you all.
Ted, you have written some great stuff in the midst of this pandemic about how you were prepared, not just for a pandemic, you're prepared for life because you live a lifestyle that depends upon the land and depends upon your skills and not upon the government. More Americans maybe ought to take your advice in light of this, huh?
Well, we were raised when the battle cry of self-sufficiency and rugged individualism could be found in the Boy Scout mantra of be prepared. And I got to tell you, Governor, like your family and mine, there are millions, tens of millions of American families who are hunters, fishermen, trappers, ranchers, farmers, that we were already cocked, locked, and ready to rock, Doc, whether it's a blizzard or a drought or a flood or a hurricane. So rugged individualism is alive and well. And the great celebration here during this tragic pandemic, when people are really hurting, is that those of us that are prepared all across this country, I hear from them every minute of the day on Facebook, we're the ones who are helping the people who were less than prepared.
Ted, you are not somebody who is, let's say, afraid to give strong and bold opinions. But I'm sure it has had maybe implications where people said, I'm not going to listen to your music. I'm not going to come to your concerts anymore because you're too controversial. I don't think that bothers you.
Have you noticed that? No, it rolls off my back like hygiene from Michael Moore. I was raised with the most important love known to man. It's called discipline. My great dad, Warren Henry Nugent, and my beloved mother, Marion Dorothy Nugent, they raised us with a balance of an iron fist of get the job done to the absolute best of your ability, earn your own way, live within your means, and save for a rainy day. And especially as a bow hunter, you have to be so dedicated. You have to have a samurai situational awareness. That is what guided me to turn down the suicide of drugs and alcohol and tobacco and all the nonsense of the hippie rock and roll goofballs. And so I know that what I do when I get a Governor Mike Huckabee to salute me when I stand up for self-evident truth, for logic, common sense, God, family, country, I know that I'm on the right track. Nobody can deter me. So my critics, I laugh in their face and just play killer rock and roll.
It's one of the reasons I tell you, I love you, Ted. You're one of the best. But, you know, I find it very interesting. Most people don't realize that even during the 60s, when most rock and roll stars were so high they don't even remember the 60s, you never got into drugs. You've been an outspoken advocate telling people, stay away from drugs and substance. What made you different than every other person in the rock and roll world?
Well, if anybody was going to be a rebel with or without a cause, it would have been young Ted, because I graduated from the American anti-education system. So I was a primed, mushy-brained teenager ready to buy into this lie, this suicidal lie of peer pressure. Well, I learned early on that and again, I go back to my bow hunting discipline. If you are trained as a bow hunter and you discover that samurai mystical flight of the arrow, the origins of Zen and ultimate awareness, samurai, goes back to putting God's gifts to work for the bullseye or the heart, the pump station on that deer, that archery accuracy. And that control of your arrow is how you should dedicate yourself to the control and quality of your life. So when my fellow rock and rollers were laughing at me and making fun of me because I murder innocent animals, I guess they didn't know it was called barbecue, and they would just attack me for not, participating in their drooling, puking, stumbling death march of drugs and alcohol. I tried to help them, Mike. I was constantly trying to help them, but I knew that in order to play these great licks that Wilson Pickett and James Brown and the Motown Funk Brothers, and I know your killer band knows exactly what I'm talking about, you have to be in ultimate optimal, healthy condition to really communicate. When I jammed with Jimi Hendrix and I jammed with all these incredible musicians, Eddie Van Halen and Billy Gibbons, and I've been jamming with the greatest virtuosos that ever lived. I jammed with B.B. King. I played bass for Chuck Berry and Bo Diddley, Mike. That's why I'm like this. So I knew that being stoned, I would miss out because all the guys that were stoned were missing out. I told Jimi Hendrix he was going to die. I told Bon Scott of AC/DC, you can't do this, Bon. You're going to die. I told Keith Moon, you can't get drunk every night, man. No, I don't want your liquor. I don't want your booze. By the way, you're drooling. I mean, people ask me, how did I avoid the temptation to take drugs and alcohol? The same way I avoided the temptation to stab myself in the eyeball with an ice pick. It looked like a really stupid idea.
Ted, there's nobody who is more articulate than you. It's one of the reasons I just love being around you. By the way, I want to say thanks. You and Trey Corley put together a phenomenal song. I got to play bass with you. Our audience is going to be pretty impressed. You're playing from Texas. I'm playing from Florida. Trey and the band are playing in Nashville. We recorded it 3 separate times. And I just want you to know what a great American you are to try something like this. And the beauty is that it worked. So I say thank you, Ted Nugent.
Very technical, but I like Lewis and Clark. I'll try anything, especially with you, Mike. You have soul. You're my soul brother, funk brother, blood brother. And I got to tell you, Trey and Kelly, you have a great Huckabee boogie band. And like I said before, you guys deserve me.
Well, we're glad we have you. Thank you, Ted Nugent, very much. And Keith Bilbrey is going to tell the folks at home how they can keep up with Ted Nugent. And why on earth would you not want to? Keith, take it away.
I can do. Be sure to watch Ted Nugent's Spirit of the Wild on the Outdoor Channel. And for his albums, future concerts, and everything Nuge, visit tednugent.com.